Survivor 49 is... it's something. I mean, it's all right. we're getting through it. But I am back here nonetheless after I come here week after week to analyze the edit of every episode of Survivor and give each and every person in the season an Edgic rating based on how I think they're doing. And I use that to create a contender ranking on who I think is most likely to win the season based on just the first 4 episodes. And so I am back to get some Edgic ratings and contender rankings for Survivor 49 episodes. But first, if you still don't know how Edgic works, basically Edgic is a system that we use to give each and every character in an episode of Survivor a specific Edgic rating for how they were edited in that episode. There are 3 different parts to an Edgic rating. The first part is the type of edit, and there are typically 4 different types of edits. The first part is UTR, which stands for under the radar, which means you didn't see very much of them in the episode. The second part is MOR, which stands for middle of the road, which means you saw some of them, but they weren't super fleshed out as a character. The third part is CP, which stands for complex personality, which means you saw a good amount of them and they were pretty fleshed out as a character. And the fourth part is OTT, which stands for over the top, which means you saw way too much of them proportionally to what they needed in the episode. There's also INV, which stands for invisible, which means you basically saw none of them at all. The second part of an Edgic rating is the tone. This is the extra letter added on to the end of the rating. It can either be P for a positive leaning tone, N for a negative leaning tone, M for a mixed tone, which means a little bit of both, or you just don't add on any extra letter, there's just nothing there, which means no tone, just a toneless edit that's not really swaying one way or another. And then finally, the number at the end of an Edgic rating is a visibility scale from 1 to 5 on how much screen time they had in the episode. 1 for they barely got any screen time, 5 for they got a lot of screen time. And so here we are in episode 4 of Survivor 49. We're getting through it. You know, we're getting there. We're moving along. We're trucking along. It's not been the best pre-merge. I think that, honestly, this might be the worst pre-merge of the new era. I feel like, even the lesser pre-merges of the new era or lesser seasons have typically had pretty good pre-merges. Like maybe 43 is the one season I can think of that maybe didn't have that great of a pre-merge. But otherwise, this is pretty unusual for a new era season to get such a bad pre-merge. Because although we do, people often complain about a pre-merge in terms of, it's so short, it feels very insignificant to the game nowadays, compared to what it used to be or compared to International Version Survivor where the pre-merge is really important. It feels like new era pre-merge, they just kind of sweep it under the rug a lot of the time. But even then, I feel like new era pre-mergers have still been pretty entertaining. I'm thinking 48, I'm thinking 45, I'm thinking 40 other seasons. I mean, those 2 pre-mergers I think are really good. I think the 47 pre-merger is honestly pretty good. It's not crazy, but it's a pretty solid pre-merge. There are good pre-mergers in the new era, and so it's strange to see such a lackluster pre-merge here. There's really not a lot to talk about in terms of Edgic and different things going on because it feels pretty cut and dry. I feel like if you've never thought about analyzing the edit at all anymore or at all before, this season it feels pretty straightforward. It feels like it should come pretty naturally to you. You shouldn't really be surprised by anything the Edgic people are saying. I know that sometimes people that don't pay attention to Edgic at all might be surprised that Edgic is analyzing things in certain ways. Maybe they're higher on someone than a casual viewer might be high on their chances of, stuff like that. But I feel like this season, there's really not a lot of variety here. I feel like we have pretty clear people that are the important people, pretty clear people that are not the important people in the middle, all the range. I mean, I know that there are some differences in contender rankings between people, but generally speaking, It's been pretty clear so far. I mean, even here we are with the swap, and I feel like I haven't really changed a ton of opinions because of the swap. I will have some interesting things to say, but overall, just not a lot, not a lot going on, honestly. But we'll get through it. We'll talk about it. I still have lots of thoughts on how each person is being edited in this episode and in the season so far. And we're going to try to make some predictions today. I have a lot of thoughts on my contenders and whatnot. In terms of my predictions, I'm not so sure, so we'll see when we get there. But of course, we start off every episode talking about the Edgic ratings for each and every player. And we start that off by talking about the eliminated player this week, which was Matt, our first Hina to fall. Not that surprising to finally see a Hina leave. I think that we'll talk about predictions at the end of it, but I do think we've been bound for a Hina to leave. Matt, it does kind of make sense to me because out of all the Hina, it felt like he got the most content or most good content in the first two episodes, which I guess kind of inevitably meant that he would be the one leaving soon because he actually had some build up to be leaving soon compared to Jason, who was the other option, who had like no build up, like no screen time. I was like, man, if Jason gets voted out here, this poor guy, he's gotten absolute scraps in this edit. So it made the most sense for Matt to go. And I do think he got a lot of negative content in this episode, but I mean, it is what it is. I liked Matt. I enjoyed him. I thought he seemed like an interesting guy. I'm sad to see him go out this way, especially since it felt like he was one, like kind of the Hina that I felt like I was driven to care about the most. To see him be the one to fall is kind of unfortunate, but that's just the way it's got to go, I suppose. So yeah, I guess with Matt, I'd probably give him a complex personality negative, I think. I'm thinking a CPN 3 is my opinion here. I don't think we got like a ton of Matt in this episode. You could maybe give it a 4, but I don't think it was a lot. It just felt like, yeah, he's probably going out, but I don't think it was like an excessive amount of Matt. There was a lot of like Savannah kind of talking about him, his history as a person working in finance, and that's like a negative attribute. We're scared of him. He's kind of got to go. There's a lot of people talk about how he's got to go. They didn't trust him, all this kind of stuff. If we look at the confessional charts, we can pull it up here. Matt with 5 confessionals, which is pretty good for this episode. That is pretty good. I mean, 5 confessionals. We could bump him up to a 4, but I'm going to leave it at a 3 for now. And maybe down the line I'll change it. We'll see. Sometimes I change depending on how I rate other people. But yeah, I think a complex person negative 3, which makes sense. Usually people going on their way out makes sense for them to get a negative edit on the way out because there's got to be a reason why they leave. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I enjoyed Matt. I'm sad to see him go, but that's the way it goes. I do think, hot take, I think we're going to be getting a lot more negative rating this episode. Last episode, I gave no negative ratings, which is kind of rare. It was only positive or toneless or mixed. But this time I think we're going in the opposite direction. I think we're getting a lot of negatives here. So we'll get through it. Matt is just the first of many negatives this episode. So we'll hop up to the top of the list and go down alphabetically, giving each person their Edgic rating. Alex, pretty straightforward episode for Alex. I definitely do not think there was any tone here for Alex. I do think I would still probably give him a complex personality. He could maybe be middle of the road, but I do think that he still had a big part in narrating the swap. I think that it was really told from Sophie and Alex's perspective as we were led into these new tribes. And so I do still think that Alex got a lot of good content there. I don't think it was excessive, and I do think he kind of fell off a little bit later in the episode. I don't think we got a ton of him kind of once the tribes settled onto their new beaches. But I also think that that's fine. You know, I don't like that his tribe didn't go to council. Nothing was really going on there. He's clearly not really a part of any dynamics that are going on there yet. So I don't think he needed any content really. So I think I'm looking at probably a straightforward complex personality 3 on it for Alex. I think he got fine content, but nothing too crazy. Jason. I mean, Jason did go to Tribal. We did get a lot of talk about Jason. Not a lot, but some. If we take a look at this, Jason got, I believe, 1 confessional still. It's not great. I gave him middle of the road 2 last time, and I think I want to give him that again. I think. Or maybe an under the radar. But I mean, we did get some people talking about him. It's probably I think a middle road 2. Although actually no, you know what? I think a middle of the road -2. Because I think there was a lot of negative talk about how he is like loyal to his team, which I guess is like a good thing, but it was painted like, oh, we don't want him here. Like it felt like they kind of wanted to vote him out over Matt. Matt kind of dug his own grave. But it felt like there was a lot of like, we gotta get Jason out of here going on. So I feel like it was a negative leaning edit here for Jason, but I could be wrong. That's how I'm feeling. Jawan, we didn't get a ton from him on the confessional charts. He's got 1 confessional. He had that moment when he was talking to Matt. I still think he got fine stuff here. I'm almost even willing to give him a complex personality because I do feel like we understood where he's at in the tribe despite only getting 1 confessional. And he was on the bottom and now he's kind of not on the bottom. It could be a middle of the road. I'm a little bit conflicted. I kind of want to give him a CP2. Because he got more than Jason. I still felt like I got a better understanding of Jawan than I did of Jason in this episode. But I don't think it was a whole lot more screen time overall, I guess. So that's what my instinct is. Kristina. Finally got some stuff from Kristina. I think I'm going to give Kristina an OTTP either 2 or 3. She got 3 confessionals. She got a huge segment, a big flashback sequence about her history and whatnot. I do think that was big for her, but I also feel like I didn't get a ton from her about the game. Otherwise, a little bit of her talk with Shannon. We could maybe give it a 3. Yeah, I guess, because I do feel like it was a memorable episode for her, more so than these guys. I remember her just as much as I remembered Alex in this episode, really. So I'll give it an OTTP3. I definitely think it was an OTT episode, probably positive because of, it was a very sympathetic edit, but not a ton of screen time. MC. Not a lot here from MC. I don't really remember anything she had to say, honestly. She got 1 confessional. I don't remember MC in this episode. I straight up don't. I mean, she did stuff in the challenge as she usually does, but I'm thinking maybe an under the radar. I might give her an under the radar 1, honestly. It could be a under the radar 2, maybe, but I definitely got less from her than I did Jason and Jawan, so I think I gotta go 1. I just feel like I don't remember MC at all in this episode. I really don't. She wasn't like completely invisible, but It wasn't much. It really wasn't much. We didn't hear her talk about if she's going to get her idol at all on the new beach. I don't really remember her talking about like her alliance with Steven, which has been a thing that has been building up. I don't really remember anything. I think that I got to give it under the radar one. Nate, solid stuff from Nate again. I mean, I don't think you got a ton of confessionals. You got 3. Okay, it's not terrible. It's less than Matt and Alex, so I probably can't give him more screen time, but I still feel like pretty solid stuff here. He was talking about like kind of running the tribe. I don't really think it was totally tone. I probably wouldn't give it a positive rating. Although Matt was saying that like he was like the leader of the tribe, I still feel like it wasn't like trying to like push us in a positive, like emotional direction in any way. So I think we'll probably go with a straightforward complex personality 3, I think, here for Nate. For Rizo, finally a better episode for Rizo. He finds the idol. We get a better sense of him, kind of in relationship to his tribe. I really love the scene of him laying on the hammocks with Savannah, and they were like joking about how they're getting to hang out on Hina's hammocks that they only got for like one night. I thought that was a pretty fun scene. I mean, there was fun stuff here from Rizo. I don't think there was tone really. I feel like we're probably looking at a straightforward complex personality. If you look at the confessional charts, he gets 7 confessionals. So I could maybe give him a 4. Yeah, we can go with a complex personality 4. I just felt like I didn't really get that much from him in this episode, even though he did have 7 confessionals and was involved in more stuff. No, I kind of want to cut him down to a 3, honestly. I don't feel like I got that much from him, even though we did. Fine, we'll go with it. We'll give him a 4, but I'm not happy about it. But I'm keeping it that way for now. Sage. Interesting episode for Sage. We saw people kind of talking about how they actually kind of trust her. They kind of respect her openness. We saw her. I felt like this episode was kind of painting her as like the hero, I guess, in the dynamic between her and Shannon, which seems to be a bit of a beef that is brewing. And so I think I'm going to give Sage a positive rating. She didn't get a ton of content. I believe technically this says she only got 1 confessional, even though I felt like she was right in there. I think I'm going to give it a complex personality positive. Either 3 or 2, 1 confessional, probably a 2. We didn't see much of that tribe in general. But I still felt like I got Sage in this episode. I got to understand where she's at. I got people talking about her. She had good POV, player perspective. I feel like there's still good stuff here from Sage, honestly. This is still a good episode for Sage, even though maybe it wasn't the most screen time. Savannah. I mean, what is there to say about Savannah? She's getting the most content. Look at this. Look at this confessional chart. 12 confessionals in this episode. That's absurd. Everyone else is so low. I mean, we got so many 1s and 2s in this episode. Savannah gets 12. She's getting so much strategic content. She's really proving to be the strategic narrator of the season, akin to many strategic narrators we've had in the past. So I think that I gotta give her. I don't think there was tone really for her this episode. I think it was a straightforward complex personality 5. So much content in this episode. She got so much content in this episode, so I gotta give her that. Shannon. Let's see. Shannon. I think I am going to give a complex personality negative. Honestly, no. I might even give over the top negative 3. If I'm going over the top, I'd give it 3. If I was going complex, I'd give it a 4. But I just felt like this was like it just felt like a negative episode for Shannon. I do think there was mixed tone here for Shannon. I'm not going to lie, okay? There was mixed tone here. There was some positivity coming from Kristina that she like vibed with Shannon. And there was a little bit of like people kind of respected that she was like a Sharky player. But I just felt like overall the negativity outweighed the positivity in this episode for me. Even though it was mixed, it just felt like misrepresentative to give her a mixed tone for me. Because I felt like this was overall a negative tone episode for her. Especially compared to the previous episodes where I gave her mixed ratings. This one just felt so much more like painting her kind of as a villain. We got Sage talking about how she's kind of like fake and like putting on a guise, I guess. Steven talked about how he didn't really trust her and that she was kind of a scary player and he kind of wanted her out. I just felt like this was a dynamic, again, being set up with Sage being kind of more the hero to Shannon's more villain. I give her a 3. I think she might have only got, let me see. She got 2 confessionals. Not terrible. So I'll give her a 3. Even though I do feel like she was a big part of the episode. But I do think I felt like there was a lot of talk about Shannon. That was pretty much all that was going on the new Kella tribe. It was all about kind of Shannon and her guru stuff or hippy dippy, whatever that she calls it. And yeah, I mean, overall, over the time negative. Sophie, we get a ton from. Again, I talked about it with Alex. She was the narrator of the swap. I think even more so than Alex. We got so much talking from her. She integrated herself. Honestly, I gave her complex personality positive 5 last episode. I think I want to give it again. Like, honestly, I felt like I got so much from Sophie this episode. She was so far and away one of the leading people here. I got so much more from her than anyone else. I mean, if we look at a confessional chart, she gets 6 confessionals, which is technically less than Rizo. But I still felt like she was such a huge presence in the episode. You could maybe give her a 5, but I still would give her a complex personality positive. Or, sorry, you could maybe give her a 4. I want to give her a 5. I do, honestly. I really do. I felt like this was another huge episode for her. If you give her 4, I respect it. I'm giving it a 5 because it's where my gut's going right now. Sophie with an E is getting a very coveted rating, very rare. We have an under the radar -2 because we still didn't get a ton from her. To get an under the radar tone at all is pretty rare, but I just felt like we still didn't see a lot from her. She still got 1 confessional. You know, we still don't really know her dynamic in the tribe, whatever, but it still felt like it was painted a little bit negatively. They were kind of crapping on her for complaining about the fruit, and then we kind of saw her complaining about the beach. It just felt like this, like all the screen time she gets is kind of her complaining about food, I guess. So it felt like it was, a negative leaning episode for Sophie. Still not a lot of screen time. What a unfortunate edit here for my winner pick. It's not going well. It's not going well. I still have faith in her. But that's where I'm gonna go with that. Steven. Jeez. I mean, it could give Steven a complex, maybe, but I feel like that's too many complex personalities this episode. I think I'll give him a middle of the road 3. I feel like we got some good stuff from him on his tribe, but it was more like him kind of talking about the other members of his tribe than it was talk about like his game plan really, or like any personal stuff. You know, he just is the one that kind of got the content talking about what was going on, but I don't think it got like excessively better confessionals than Sophie. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like they had kind of similar types of confessionals, even though Matt or Steven had more of them.
I mean, Steven, let's see. He get 2 confessionals. It's not a lot. Yeah, I feel good about a middle of the road 3, I think, here. Because I ended up giving a lot of complex personalities this episode, which is kind of surprising. Because I would have thought that there would have been a lot more middle of the roads and under the radars. But, you know, hey, it's the way it's got to go sometimes. You can maybe argue that Jawan should be middle of the road, but we'll move on. We'll move on to the Contender Rankings. I think that, yeah, I mean, we can change the Edgic later if we want. But we're just kind of getting through it. You know, we're getting through it this week. And so far this season, pretty much. Matt goes out. I had him kind of high. I had him as the highest from his tribe early on. That ended up changing. Steven did move ahead of him in episode 3, and now he goes out here. Not too surprised. I don't love that it felt like this was the 3rd episode in a row where the boot was explicitly telegraphed to us in the previously on Survivor, or on the next time on Survivor segment in the previous episode, but it is what it is. You know, I hope that changes for the next episode. But I was wrong. I thought Shannon would leave this week. I thought that tribe would lose for sure. So to see Matt go out here and to see that tribe lose at all, it's pretty surprising, but that's how it goes. In last place for our Contender Rankings, I am going to put Jason. He's moving back down to the bottom after a brief stint not being at the bottom. I just think he still gets so little. His tribe loses here, still only gets 1 confessional. It's kind of negatively in the episode. We still don't get very much from him. He could be a way more important character by this point. He's a puzzle beast, a huge challenge beast. His tribe goes to council. He's involved in lots of stuff that's going on. Well, not really. But like he could have an edit, and he just doesn't. And that is really damning for me. The fact that he gets so little. I don't think there's any world where Jason lasts much longer. I don't think Jason's on the jury. I really don't think Jason's on the jury. When he goes out, I don't know. Could be next time. Could be the week after. I guess we're getting closer to jury than I thought, now that I'm realizing it. But I still think it's dire straits for Jason. I'm putting Sophie as second last. I can't, in my heart, put her last. Okay, I just can't. I can't put my winner pick last. I'm rooting for you, Sophie. I'm rooting for you. At least you got 1 confessional this time. You got 1. I'm happy. I'll cherish it. I'll cherish that 1 confessional. I still like Sophie, okay? I still feel like she seems like she could be doing well. We just don't see her tribe at all. We don't see anything that's going on with her, so it just is what it is. I do think, I will reiterate that Sophie getting almost no content is better than Jason getting almost no content, because Sophie doesn't have stuff going on. She's not in a good spot in her tribe. She, again, wins tribal or wins immunity, doesn't go to tribal. Nothing's going on with Sophie. So her not getting content, I still have hope for a Genevieve edit, because what's she supposed to get? Why would we be showing Sophie right now? There's not any need to. Jason, you could be showing Jason, and you're not. So that's why Jason is below. Kristina is moving up the ranks. She goes all the way up to 3rd from the bottom. I put her dead last week. She had a huge week this week. Big flashback sequence. Big kind of like, what do they call it? Like backstory package is what they call it in the new era. They've kind of toned back on those a little bit in the later stages of the new era. But we got one here for Kristina. I still think that's big. I still don't think she's winning because of the double goose egg she got. But at this point, Sophie and Jason still also have goose eggs. Kristina got this big sequence. It feels like that's at least something. Maybe she could turn out like an Erica. Maybe, if things really, really go well for her. But I don't really think so. I don't really see it. I still feel like we don't really get much for strategic content. It still feels like she got like kind of the one scene, but it doesn't really feel like she's that involved otherwise in anything else that's going on in the season.
but at least it was something. MC is going next. We got almost nothing from MC this episode. She's had slightly more consistent content. She didn't have a goose egg like the people below her. I'll admit, I saw in the comments, people were like, Matt had the goose egg last time. Why did you not move him lower? I should have, okay? You guys were right, okay? Y'all were right. You called me out. I just had a little bit of hope for Matt because at least he had content in some way, which meant that he was leaving soon, I guess, is what it ended up being. But I was hoping maybe it could go differently. But with MC, I mean, listen, she doesn't have a goose egg, but she still got solo content, multiple under the radar ratings. It's just not there for MC. It really isn't. I mean, she could go far. She still could potentially have an impact on the season, but she's not winning. Okay, I think I'm going to make a big shift here. I mean, listen, guys. We've been knowing that Hina's not winning. Hina's not winning. So what's the G-dang point anymore? Steven, get down there. Hina on the bottom. Bottom 5. Matt's gone. What's the point? What's the point of putting any of the Hina members above anyone else? They're not winning. Even in this swap, Hina still gets less than everyone else. I just think there's no way that any of those original Hina members are winning. It's just been an abysmal edit for them so far. It's shocking and appalling. It's maybe the most purple tribe in the history of the show. And I'm really not, I don't even think I'm exaggerating that much. I can't even think of a tribe to compare it to. My closest comparison of the edit of this season is maybe Ghost Island, where, we kind of get a few people that you're supposed to care about. There's only a handful, probably less than a handful, that have any content, and then everyone else gets paid dust. Absolute nothing in the edit. And that's what's going on here, where we have like 4 or 5 people that you're supposed to care about, even a smidgen, and everyone else gets nothing, just absolutely nothing in the edit. And that is especially true going on with the Hina tribe, or original Hina tribe. They get so little. I can't believe any of them is winning. I do think Steven is the big standout from that tribe. He's gotten the best content so far. At best, I could maybe see Steven as a 0-vote finalist. Maybe. But he's not. I don't even think he's getting a vote. I don't think anyone from that tribe is getting a vote at Final Tribal Council because they got no edit. None. But yeah, I mean, Steven gets the best content from that tribe. But even then, I still feel like he's maxed out at a Mitch kind of edit. I still feel like he's getting 5th place maybe, if any Hina makes it to the end. And to the finale, I feel like they're tapping out at 5th. But I definitely don't think they're getting any votes at Final Tribal. That's where my head's at right now. I just think that what's even the point of putting Hina any higher? Putting Sage next. Sage doesn't get a ton of content, but she does have story. I mean, maybe she could go above Jawan now that I say that, but I still feel like she gets less. It just feels like she's less important than Jawan. Maybe that's not true. I just feel like she started off not that great. I do feel like she's a character. I do feel like she is kind of the hero and the dynamic with Shannon. You're supposed to be rooting for her. She's being painted as a rootable character. But, I don't know, it's kind of tit for tat here with Jawan. Doesn't matter a whole lot. Obviously, Jawan is going to go next. I don't think that either of them are winning. They might go kind of far. They get better stories and content than anybody from the Hina tribe or original Hina. At least it's something. They have some stories. Again, they're not in the top group. But it's something. So that's where they're going here. Putting Shannon in 6th place, I think pretty easily. Shannon, I mean, has been painted as a big threat. We've seen this multiple times, and I do think that we've seen a lot of people talk about her as a very capable player, which is interesting. I do think that that could come back to Shannon going very far. I do think that it's possible Shannon wins, but again, I feel like she's had a kind of negative leaning edit. People don't know quite what to make of her. There has been some positivity there, but there's also been a lot of kind of like people don't trust her, don't really like what she's up to. I think Sage kind of like calling her fake or whatever it was she said was a really pretty damning for her, honestly. I did not love that. She still gets way more content than anyone else, but I don't know. I don't even know if she's going to last that long, quite frankly. So, putting her at 6. Top 5, Rizo staying at 5. I don't think that Rizo has a ton of like story still. I mean, he's there. He just kind of is an integral part of his alliance. He's part of the group, of the tribe. But like, I don't think we still get a ton from him individually. It's kind of circumstantial, talking about tribal, talking about getting his idol. But at least it's something. It's definitely better than anyone else. I think Rizo could win, but I still just don't feel like he's like at the total forefront of the dynamics of strategy and whatnot. I think Rizo could easily worm his way in as we go along. But I'm keeping him there. I mean, I'm not making a lot of changes, quite frankly, this episode. So it's not a lot of shakeups going on. We got to try to swap and barely anything changed. However, I think I'm going to put Alex at 4. This is more to talk about Nate than it is to talk about Alex. But, I mean, Alex, he gets a lot of content. I mean, he does have the most confessionals still. But I feel like he's taken a little bit of a back seat this episode compared to the first 2 episodes. I think that Sophie really overshined him in both episode 3 and episode 4. Episode 3 was kind of painted as like the Sophie and Jeremiah dynamic and what's going to happen. And then Alex was kind of like the extra guy. And then this time I felt like, I do think that Kella narrating the swap is huge. I think that was a big edit moment that felt important to me. However, I feel like it just felt like it was still better for Sophie. Sophie got better content. We saw her get better integrated into the tribe. I think Alex, she still got good content in narrating the swap, but I am starting to feel like maybe Alex's content is just kind of pointing towards more a Sophie win and his importance to Sophie's story than it is to his own individual story, because his individual story's kind of been going down a little bit. It's still way better than anybody else, but it's just something I'm feeling about. It makes me, I want to move Nate up to 3. He's been on a steady rise. He doesn't get a ton of content in this episode, but what he does get is really good. He gets a ton of credit here. I think he really gets given credit for Matt going. We explicitly see Savannah and Rizo both say, we would rather Jason leave. But Nate is the one that wants Matt to leave, and Matt leaves. Now, it wasn't like an over-the-top episode for him. I do think that could be to kind of disguise what was going to happen, still kind of make it be like, oh, like it could go either way. And so, I think that Nate didn't get a ton of content because I think that they were trying to still make it unsure which way it was going to go. But he still got credit for Jason staying. Savannah and Rizo did not get the credit for that, really. So I still feel like this is really good for Nate. He's in a good spot. We saw Matt talking him up as the leader of the tribe. He's a big threat, all this kind of stuff. Still good stuff from Nate here. I'm putting Savannah at 2. Still good stuff from Savannah. Obviously, she gets the most confessionals here. Ton of content. She's clearly the strategic narrator. It's so excessive. It's really, really excessive. But I do still think, again, I give Nate credit for the decision this episode, which is interesting. And I think that Savannah, typically people say it's good for the winner to be kind of the one with the less tone. Typically, kind of toneless winners is kind of common in the new era, especially compared to who they're sitting next to. But, so I do think that is in Savannah's favor. However, I gotta put Sophie at number one. I still think that Sophie's edit is really, really good. She gets so much. She narrates the swap. We see her integrate. She talks about wanting to be the puppy dog looking for a home. She's like one of Savannah's friends. This is such like a positive edit for her. She's such like the focal point. Sophie is, we've moved on to like the next stage of the game in a sense, and Sophie is still the main character of the season. And I think that that is going to continue to be the case. Now, does that mean that she wins? Maybe not. It could be Savannah. It could even be Nate or Alex or Rizo, I guess. But I just think that really, people have been saying this is really a two-horse race between Sophie and Savannah. A lot of people think Savannah. She's gotten more, so much confessionals this episode and whatnot. But I just think that Sophie has such a good edit. She's just like the main person of what's going on. She's the person to root for. She's been playing great and a great character. She's got so much going for her. It's a big thing between the two. Could go either way. But my gut is saying that Sophie's got to stay number one right now. I think this was a fantastic episode for Sophie, quite frankly. It was a great episode for Savannah too, but an even better episode for Sophie. Maybe not better, but also very good. And so I keep it the same. And that is it for the Contenders and Edgic of the Week. Not a whole lot of changes overall, but we're chugging along. Which means that we then go to my predictions for next episode and the future of this season. I think, I mentioned earlier that I don't love that the Next Time on Survivor has basically explicitly told us who's going home 3 times in a row. They really made it seem like Annie was leaving. They really made it seem like Jake was leaving. And then they really made it seem like Matt was leaving. And so that kind of frustrates me. And so I'm hoping that isn't the case next time. But we'll see. I think the Next One Survivor was maybe the worst for Jawan. However, I don't see that tribe voting out Jawan. If the new Hina loses, they have to vote out Jason. There's no world where they vote out Jawan. That'd be ignorant, especially since original Hina's got to go at this point. And I just don't see a world where Jawan goes over Jason. I just think that would be absurd. So if the tribe loses, I think it's Jason. However, I think it's probably more likely that the other tribe loses, the new Kella, and it's either Sage or Shannon, who also got set up in the Next On Survivor to leave. I'm sticking my claim on it. Bing, put it back on Shannon, I think. I mean, listen, I hate to, run the same rat race. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here. But I just think that she's being kind of painted as this villain. I think that it's who people on that tribe want to go. I think especially Steven. We saw Steven saying he would rather vote out Shannon than Sage. And I think Steven has been proven to be the Hina with the most power and the best edit. So I think if that tribe loses, Steven's making the decision, and I think he wants Shannon to go. That's how it's got to be. We did have some weird little edit where Kristina was like, hey, Shannon, what about me, you, and Alex? I think team up. I don't know. That was weird. So I don't know. And listen, oh gosh, I almost broke my chair again. I do think that Shannon has more screen time, obviously, in a bigger story, but I also thought that about Matt, and Matt left. So could this all just be building up towards Shannon leaving? I kind of think so. I kind of think that Savannah's moved on. She's found her new people. It always felt to me like the storyline of her and Nate felt more important than the storyline of her and Shannon, even though there was a lot of talk about how her and Shannon were kind of in the middle of that tribe. We also see her bonding with Sophie, which feels like way more important moving forward. I just think Shannon's going to get left behind. I think Shannon's got to go. And that's what I think. I think Shannon's going to be the next boot. It could be Sage. It could be Jason. I don't think it'll be Jawan. I think Jawan is a smokescreen. If it is Jawan, I'm going to be surprised. I think it's going to be Shannon. However, Hina does need to leave. And listen, moving past this, Jeff did say that this isn't the season gets unpredictable and exciting in the merge. I don't see how that happens at all. This edit is horrible. If this is not leading towards a Hina pagonging, then what the heck are we doing? This edit is terrible. Hina gets pagonged. It's the only thing that makes any sense. They gotta go all go. Like, huh? You're telling me we're gonna lose anyone else before them? There's no way. I just really fail to see it. Maybe Steven can work his way in there and he can get 5th place somehow. Maybe. Like that's kind of like the best bet I got for Hina. But I do think Hina's going to largely get picked off at the merge. But I do have to have some faith, and I guess things are going to get mixed up. So maybe things get mixed up, but at the end of the day, Hina's not winning. Maybe Shannon stays to the merge, and then Shannon goes out early merge, and that's kind of the unpredictable shakeup. You didn't, oh, I can't believe that happened. And I could see Jawan getting picked off maybe early in the merge. But ultimately, there's a core. There's a new core 4 in town. It's Savannah, it's Nate, it's Rizo, and it's Sophie. That's going to the end. I see maybe all those people in the finale. If any of them get picked off before that, it's probably Nate, just because he has the least screen time overall. But I think that's the core. Those are the only characters you're really meant to care about. Pull Alex into the fold, perhaps, and Alex can kind of stick around for a little bit longer too. And there you go, bish bam boom. That's all that matters. I think Sophie and Savannah are giving Dom and Wendell to me maybe a little bit. I mean, obviously, we just saw the start of that dynamic, but they seem like they're going to be a dynamic duo. They're pretty much going to run the game. They get all of the content. Nobody else in the season matters, even a smidgen. Everyone else is paid dust. They get absolute crumbs. And we end up at the end where it's a Sophie and Savannah battle in the final 2. Well, final 3, but they're the final 2, right? And that's where I think the season's going. With, I don't know, as a 3rd placer. I don't think it's Rizo. Now, I did see, this is something I did want to note this time. We saw Nate make fire. I felt like there was a little bit of intrigue to Nate making fire. Typically, in Edgic, people like to kind of keep an eye on when we see people in relation to fire in the episodes. Like, does that mean that they go into fire making? Particularly, do they lose fire making? Nate's my pick for a fire-making loser right now. Could be Rizo. However, I'm starting to feel like maybe Rizo is our 0 finalist. Rizzo's got a very sympathetic, kind of over-the-top kind of edit, even though he's kind of been not had great edits the past couple episodes. But I could see Rizo being like a Jake O'Kane. Or like a Ben Katzman even. Or a Carolyn. Right? I could definitely see Rizo in a Carolyn type mold. It doesn't feel like he's in the final 3 to me, but maybe. But he's the best pick I probably have for a 3rd placer right now. I don't think Nate would get 3rd place if he's in the final 3. I think Nate loses fire. I think that's the final 4. And Rizo is the 0 finalist. Or maybe he gets 1 vote, or at least 3rd place. And then Sophie and Savannah are the top 2, and one of them has to win. That's where it's leading towards for me. And we get a kind of Dom and Wendell style edit, really. So, that's what I'm thinking. That's where we're at so far in the season. I'm sticking my claim Shannon's leaving next. I think it's probably wrong, but it's the best I got. So, that's Survivor 49 for you. And that's basically all I got. Press the subscribe button down below if you want to see more of this content. Do it every week, analyzing every episode of Survivor. It's been an absolute blast. You can follow me on Twitter at Truest Northern, where I tweet about the show and the Amazing Race and the challenge and all kinds of these types of reality shows sometimes. So go follow me over there to see my thoughts. Also, go check out Survivor Into the Gauntlet, Survivor Northwestern Into the Gauntlet on YouTube. It's a good show. I'm in it. Worked really hard on it. It's pretty good. And yeah, basically all I got. I'll see you all next week talking more about Survivor 49. I've been North. Stay frosty, y'all.